deck, that is Hercules away.
Copy that, Hercules away.
Control deck, that's Hercules past the transom.
Roger that.
Control deck, that is tether, all out.
Tether all out.
Control, back deck, that is Atalanta in the water.
Copy, Atalanta in the water.
This is an audio slate for dive H2073. UTC time is 233145. Mark.
control, back deck, all stop 50 meters, control is being sent to the van.
Copy that. 50 meters, control being sent to the van.
Control, back deck, can you guys give the winch a little bit of a bump so we can confirm that it's been sent?
Roger that.
Yes. Who's talking to me? Yes. Yeah, it's... No, it's in my room with the computer. Okay, everyone is listening to you. Bye. She could have messaged me. Oh. Sure.
What was? Oh yeah. Tina 4? Okay.
No, it was a jelly.
Yeah. Some sort of jelly.
Nidarian variety.
So weird, Max. Once again, I cannot hear you when you talk.
I don't.
There's some funky thing between our two consoles.
You're listening to SPL?
What?
Can you hear me now, Jeff? Nice.
Okay.
It was a jelly with long tentacles and a see-through body.
Cool. Siphonophore. Yep.
Depends on the terrain and the abundance of sea cucumbers. Ah. Yeah, these things are, yeah. I swear I'm talking at a normal volume. I can turn up video. Yeah, I actually have turned up my audio a significant amount. Yeah. You're gonna be quiet from now on, Derek. Yeah. I missed it when you guys were talking about it, but what's the bottom depth that we're diving to?
Oh,
Okay.
that's deep.
Thank you. Oh no.
All right, team, can we toggle on SPL if possible?
Yes. Hello.
Awesome. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, how's everyone's day so far? I mean, I know we just started, but
Good.
Oh, it's so good.
so far so good.
Yeah, yeah. Derek, do you know about this little readout here? Okay, so this does the calculation for us. Yeah, it's really convenient, and we tend to have it up when we're going down because she can see and set the wind speed based on Herc's vertical velocity. Yeah, it's really good. No, no, but it does depend on this being set properly. Your iPhone's been rendered obsolete by a script written in 2002.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of keeping him in the dark and having him just think we're really good at mental math. Though.
Oh yeah, we should have done that. Sorry.
Like, yeah, it's 70 minutes and 1
92
second. You can't
minutes.
do that.
92 point. Yeah. Oh yeah, it's got seconds in.
What is?
Yeah. Same.
Why is
Hey,
mine
Derek, just a
different
heads up.
number?
You are not talking on
'Cause
SPL.
you
I don't know if
have-
that's intentional.
You
Video
need to set your
transmission's
bottom
out, Monty.
depth.
I don't think you are.
Video is dying.
Me?
Channel 3 is out.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good now. Thank you.
Channel 3 is out. Channel 1 and 2 was.
There we go.
All right, since we're all on SPL, why don't we do a little bit of introduction? And then I'll do a, what's the word? A follow-up question. Sounds good?
Sounds great.
Yeah, do it.
Awesome. Okay. Well, good morning to our viewers. We are in Palau. It is currently, what time is it? 8:56 a.m. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Lottie Halleck. I am in the SCF, or Science Communication Fellow seat. And thank you for viewing with us. Explore Palau with us.
I am Jeff Drazen. I'm a professor in the oceanography department at University of Hawaii, and I am a deep sea ecologist. I specialize in studying food webs and deep sea fish ecology, and I am this watch lead's science team leader.
Awesome.
Hello, my name is Piera. I work at the Palau International Coral Reef Center, and I'm currently on the Nautilus as a scientist. And I am gonna be on watch from 8 to 12, and for the rest of the time I'm collecting water for environmental DNA.
My name is Noelle. I'm in the data logger seat for this watch, and I am the science coordinator for the Ocean Exploration Trust. Up to you, Derek.
Good morning, everybody. This is Derek Sowers. I'm the Mapping Operations Manager for Ocean Exploration Trust. I'm physically based at the University of New Hampshire when I'm not at sea, and I'm the navigator for this watch.
I'm Gabby, and I'm sitting in the Herc seat. Yeah. And where am I? Where am I physically based usually? Oh, I live on Vancouver Island, and yeah, I don't know. And I'm thinking about a zillion things right now.
You're doing great.
Just keep flying the ROV.
My name's Rai. I'm in the Atalanta seat today, so that'll be your overhead view. And I also am based in Vancouver Island.
Doesn't remember anything else about herself.
It's okay, it happens.
What was the question?
Exactly.
It happens.
Go for it, Max.
Okay, my name is Max. I'm a video engineering intern on both the Nautilus. Oh, I think there's a Tina for.
What?
Oh,
What is
that's
that?
great.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm based in Seattle. I'm doing video for this dive, and audio, I guess.
Audio, I guess. Awesome. Thank you, team. Well, 8 to 12 has officially signed on, or Sponge Dunge Watch team. It's good to have everyone here. If you have any questions, send them in. We love to hear from you. Now, for our follow-up question, I think this is going to be a two-part one. Okay, one, how long have you been with OET? And two, how did you come to be here? How did you end up with OET? So two-part question. So try to remember how you came to be with OET.
We should just go in order, I think, to make it fair.
In order? Start
Yeah,
from
why don't you start?
Okay, awesome.
Give us your story.
Story. Oh, okay. Okay, hello again. This is my first expedition with Ocean Exploration Trust, so I'm a newbie, learning a lot right now. How I came to be here, I applied through a colleague. She sent me an email, said, this is a great opportunity for you to check out. I took the chance, applied, and voila, I am in Palau, halfway around the world. So, yeah, it's awesome. Yep. Go ahead, Jeff.
I am not actually with OET. I am out here and certainly part of the team, but my full-time job is with the University of Hawaii. But I've been particularly interested in deep sea habitats for many decades, and we were here working with National Geographic in March on the Pristine Seas program, deploying baited cameras here in Palau, and it's just a very underexplored place. And so when the opportunity arose to come back on the Nautilus and participate in ROV dives, I jumped at that.
I am also not with OET. I work at the Palau International Coral Reef Center, but
Creeping up here.
since the Nautilus is here in Palau, and right now we were invited as a scientist to join the cruise, so I've been here for a week.
I am full-time with OET, and I very recently started, so full-time in September. Started picking up some work during the summer months. And my role with OET is the science coordinator, so I will be helping our science team kind of bridge some of the science objectives with our operational goals here on the ship, and helping manage the wet lab that we do with reprocessing biological samples, and making sure that our data is available and useful for people to continue using long after the expeditions. And my background is in marine ecology, so I studied shallow water coral reefs for quite a while before diving into the geospatial world and using a lot of different tools and technologies to map and measure a lot of different habitats. That took me north to the Arctic, where I've been for the last couple years, working on Arctic coastal change and erosional rates. And my deep sea connection actually came from a internship with NOAA Ocean Exploration, which is the office that sponsors this expedition. They have an explorer in training program that is really amazing, that I completed a couple years ago, that really exposed me to this world and what it takes to plan and execute some of these deep sea expeditions. Derek, I think it's your turn.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, look at that eel.
Where? It's gone.
Gone.
Gotta be quick in the blue water. Yeah, this is Derek again. Let's see. I've worked full-time for OET for the past almost 2 years now. Prior to that, I worked for NOAA Ocean Exploration as an expedition manager and mapping lead. So very similar work, mostly on Okeanos Explorer, the dedicated federal vessel that does similar work to Nautilus. And yeah, it's just been really exciting to work for Nautilus as well, just to see how things are similar and different between the two exploration vessels. And to also get to be a part of the Ocean Exploration Cooperative Institute, which OET is a key partner of that consortium. And just kind of doing all these fun technology demonstrations, trying to push the edge of what we can do with ocean exploration, how we can use new tools and kind of increase the pace and the scope of what we do with new technologies and new partnerships. It's been really fun the past 2 years. And prior to that, my training was really in ocean mapping. I did a PhD at UNH, and kind of that was like a mid-career change for me, really. Before that, I was working in shallow water and estuaries, doing a lot of science and restoration work. So it's been kind of fun to start shallow water and move and see what's kind of out in the deep ocean. So it's been a great opportunity to see new places around the world.
I'm Gabby, and I've been sailing with this group since before it was OET. I started with them in 2007. And yeah, but before we even had the Nautilus, and then I was on the Nautilus, and that was during grad school. I went to school to study how to use robots to map the deep sea. And after grad school, I kept working as a technician offshore, as an electronics technician, and came back to OET to work on the vehicles. So I've sort of, most of my career, I've been at least loosely connected with OET, taking a few jobs here and there. Yeah. What else? Is that the whole question?
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Okay.
Yep.
What was the second question?
We, how long you've been here and how you got here.
Yep.
Are you
Yeah,
good?
I think I'm good. Yeah.
This is my 4th expedition with OET. My first time was sometime last year. I'm trying to remember.
It would have been June last year.
Yeah, it would have been June last year. Yeah, this is my 3rd expedition on ROV. before that, I worked for Ocean Networks Canada, which is a Canadian-based science, like oceanographic science data organization. Yeah, I before pretty much this time last year, I had no idea I wanted to do anything with ROVs, really, and didn't consider it a career path at all. So here I am.
My name's Max, and I've been with OET for 1 week now. I first found out about OET when I was in high school. I remember watching the Nautilus live streams all the time, and I just thought it was the niftiest thing. I then went to college, just graduated with a degree in marine science and film and media, really passionate about conservation and outreach, and actually applied to the OET internships a couple times, but this time I guess I finally slipped through the cracks. Here we are.
That's definitely a thing I've heard, is that if you're applying for those internships, you need to apply a few years. They're quite competitive, and timing doesn't always work out for people, and so if you're trying to get on board.
And I'll add that our internship applications are currently open. So if you're interested in applying, please check that out. We'd love to have you come on board with us.
Yeah, and if you applied last year and didn't get in, apply again
Apply
this year.
again.
Apply again and again and again.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. So to our viewers, if you want to find out more about our amazing watch team, please go on our website, nautiluslive.org. Click on science. Oh, click on team, and then you can read up on what we do, where we're from, and all of that. So thank you so much. About our dive plan now, Jeff, since you are our lead.
What are we doing today, huh?
Yep. What are we doing today? What is the plan?
Okay, so we are continuing with our theme of exploring the eastern portion of Palau's exclusive economic zone. So we are diving on an unnamed seamount that we fully mapped last night. It is about 60 nautical miles southeast of Babeldaub. And it rises up between sort of a junction where the Palau Trench and the Yap Trench meet. So it's sort of on the southeastern side of that junction of trenches. And we're going to go up the north side of the seamount towards its summit. We'll start at about 2,600 meters, and we will get all the way up, hopefully, to somewhere around 2,200 meters, which is about the summit. We are just looking to describe the communities that we see there. I expect, based on the map I've got, that we're going to see a lot of corals and sponges and things of that nature, a lot of crinoids and other
Cucumbers?
animals. Yeah, we might see some sea cucumbers, too. Lottie likes sea cucumbers. No?
Nope.
Oh, it's Derek. That's right.
Derek.
Yeah, so it's it should be a great dive, and I think that we are currently at 930 meters, so we still have quite a ways to go. We'll probably be on the seafloor in over an hour.
Oh, dang. Okay, so is there a particular reason why we chose this dive site, or?
So some of these sites are being chosen because they are nearby to eDNA sampling sites that Pickerick is monitoring. And then, quite simply, there's a lot of unexplored terrain in Palau's exclusive economic zone. There's really been very little exploration. There are some dives actually in the Palau Trench by Alan Jameson and his crew of people, and Jams Tech has been here, and they have done some geology dives around 4,000 to 6,000 meters as well, but nothing really between about 500 meters and that 4,000 meters has ever been evaluated before, has been explored. So we have dive sites that are spanning the entire EEZ of Palau. And we started in the north, and we're kind of working our way east and moving down into the Southwest Islands and then back up to the west side of the main islands. So this just happened to be a feature that looked kind of interesting and helps us sort of achieve that broad exploration of the exclusive economic zone.
Okay, so you mentioned eDNA, so that's environmental DNA.
Yes.
Yes. What are things are we looking at when we take eDNA?
Well, with eDNA, that includes all the organic matters that stays in the water from all the organisms that live there. So it can be basically anything. It can be a fragment of a fish scale. It can be a sea cucumber poop, anything really. And that tells you the once we filter the water. Oh, that's pretty.
Oh, that was a
What is
pelagic
that?
sea cucumber.
Oh, see?
Yep. It's called Pelagithuria. And that's a siphonophore coming by right now.
When we filter the water, all the organic matter stays in the filter, and then what we do is like basically a DNA extraction, and with that you can tell based on the, it's called primer, based on the primer you use you can target different types of animals or organisms. In our case, we at PICRIC so far we've been focusing on fish, or in general vertebrates, so sea mammals as well. But once you have the filter with all your organic matters, you can basically target anything you want. So it gives you an idea of the biodiversity of the area without having to actually go and see what's there. You can just tell from the water or the sediment too.
Are there any intern opportunities at PICRIC?
Yeah, sometimes we accept interns. On the Palau International Coral Reef Center website, there's always a page dedicated to intern or job vacancies, so people can go and check there when they are open.
What is the website?
It's picric.org, picrc.org.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so to our viewers, check out picric.org to apply for some internships if you're interested. Highly recommend OET. Our applications for next year's expedition is open as well. Just go to nautiluslive.org and look at our applications that are available. We have internships, SCF seats, which the seat I'm in right now, are open. I would highly recommend to apply to take this opportunity to be here on the ocean in this amazing space with amazing people. So much to learn, so much to explore, and I can't wait for you to be here. Awesome. So when we take the eDNA sample, everything that we collect from our expedition comes on board the ship.
Yes.
So, Noelle, what do we do with those samples?
So we do a couple different things depending on what type of samples we have. The eDNA samples stay with the PICRIC team. So Pira and the rest of their team will spend many, many hours in the lab taking these water samples that we've collected from different levels, different depths as we ascend, and filtering them down and taking that filter that has then the genetic material and saving that for further processing. Any of the biological samples that we collect on this dive, we bring on board to our wet lab. And in our wet lab, we do our best to describe, image, standardize everything that we find, do our best to identify it to the best taxonomic level that we can, which can be quite challenging. And then we preserve those specimens, and at the end of the expeditions, all of those specimens are sent to a repository. All of our biological data is stored at the Harvard Museum of Comparative Zoology. those samples are available for any scientists from around the world to request and use, and we encourage people to use this information. We have a vast repository. I think there's close to 5,000 different specimens in the collection over the past 15 years. So it's an incredibly rich inventory of species biodiversity around the world. But because we're working in the deep sea, many of these species are still undescribed. So there's lots of potential for discovery still in these archives that we get our partners to continue to work with. Similar with our geological samples, any of the rocks that we're collecting, those are all sent to a repository at the University of Rhode Island and are available for geologists from around the world to request and work with into the future.
Oh, wow. How many samples? Like 5,000?
From the past, from OET beginning, since the Nautilus began sailing and processing, all of our samples are now in a collection at a museum, and it's in the 5,000 organisms ballpark. I couldn't tell you the exact number, but.
Great. So is it just scientists, or anyone can come and request to look at a sample?
That's a good question. I think if you want to just go look at the samples, you could visit the museum and you could see lots of the collections that are on display there. It's a really cool place. Would encourage folks on the East Coast especially to go check that out if that's available to you. And I'm not 100% sure on the criteria for actually taking those specimens out. Generally, it's people who are working as on the taxonomic side, where they're trying to describe a new species, working exclusively with that data, and then it's returned back into the collection. It's like checking out a library book. You check out some organisms and then return it after a certain amount of time. So those are definitely available to researchers, students, early career scientists, anyone who's using them for academic work.
Okay, awesome. Well, that is your science team. Now let's move forward to our pilot and nav team. So we have questions about any experience or certificates.
I think so,
Gabby, Ryan,
unless this
Derek?
was here before. Oh, sorry.
When you're ready. No, you're good, you're good.
Give me one sec. We're trying to find an Easter egg that Dan put on the ROV. Is it that?
Easter
Yeah.
egg?
Here, wait. Sorry. What was the question?
Are there any certificates or a specific type of experience,
Experiment.
degree that you need to become a technician, ROV pilot, or a navigator?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I can't do it all again.
Did
I just can't. No, they.
Sorry, she wasn't talking on SBL.
Okay.
I can't do it again.
I'm
demoralized.
I can give my version.
Okay, yeah, go for it.
Which is, yeah, I kind of took what I consider the long way here, which was I spent almost 7 years doing a mechanical engineering degree, which definitely is not necessary to end up doing ROV. What Gabby was saying was that if you're someone without any degrees currently looking to kind of follow this path, your options could kind of be like do one of the programs that actually specifically teaches you how to be an ROV operator. I can never remember the places that do that.
It's Memorial University in Newfoundland has one. Western Michigan in Traverse City has one. There's probably others springing up now because the science and operations in the deep sea are such an important part of how we do business and science now. So you have to do a little research to figure out what those are.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, our team has a wide variety of backgrounds.
Yeah, I think I took the the longer way than you did.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a PhD in robotics.
Yeah.
So that took forever.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, and I think like the knowledge that I use for my degree is something that would be captured in more of like a technician's program or something like that,
Yeah,
versus
same,
the full, the
Yeah.
full bachelor's of engineering. But yeah, there is not currently, like, at least for here, requirements to have gone to a ROV specific program, and it is a kind of an emerging field. So the path here is pretty varied. I think the biggest thing is just having experience, like just getting out and getting your hands on things, and getting the kind of foundations of electrical and hydraulic and mechanical knowledge, and also just getting in the marine field in general.
Yeah, I haven't worked as an ROV person, but I've worked with a lot of different ROV experts, and it does seem like a background in either mechanical or electrical engineering is super useful in building, maintaining, running these types of vehicles. So typically, I've worked with a lot of people that have those kind of backgrounds. And then I think, yeah, like the actual flying the vehicles all really seems to be hands-on, getting in there and just learning how to do it. For the navigator role, this role is kind of interesting. We tend to staff it with people that have some experience in ocean mapping. So if you're interested in mapping the seafloor, making maps for informing the type of operations we do out here, or navigating in coordination with the ROV pilots, that's really good to have a background in sort of marine science in general, GIS, like Geographic Information Systems, which is basically electronic maps paired with databases. So there's lots of different software that do that. That's a good background to understand and take classes in. And then specifically for ocean mapping, that's also called hydrography, which is sometimes confused with hydrology. Hydrology is the study of like water and how it moves through the earth. But hydrography is really specific to mapping the ocean, and specifically a lot of the times that's using sound to do that. So there are places that sort of focus on that. It's not taught in a lot of schools, but the University of New Hampshire has a Center for Coastal Ocean Mapping, which has excellent training in that. University of Southern Miss has that. Memorial University up in Canada. The College of Charleston has had some really great training in ocean mapping. So if that's something you specifically want to pursue, there are avenues to do that. And then, yeah, just trying to get that experience at sea, if this is something you want to try out and see if you like the whole experience of being out here and what ship life is like. You just got to try it and see if it's a good fit.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Wait, my brain is not here anymore. Okay. So for nav, I noticed during our dives, you say bridge to nav and then say a few numbers. Is that like in relation to how the ROVs move? So the ship has to move with the ROVs?
Yeah, so the main point of my role, this role of the navigator, is to coordinate the movements of the ship on the surface of the ocean with the subsea vehicles, which are often, thousands of meters hanging below the ship. So just a simple explanation of how we're connected. The vehicles are connected to the ship with a big steel cable that hangs off the back on an A-frame, which is kind of just a big support structure that holds the cable. And that's connected to a winch that kind of pays out line or brings in line to control Atalanta. So we're basically kind of pulling Atalanta around subsea with the ship. So the ship's got a system called dynamic positioning that allows us to kind of hold in one place in the ocean, and then also allows us to make sort of fine, precise movements and go exactly where we want to go on the surface. So we can see we're pinging constantly the vehicles that are on the seafloor or in the water column, so we can know where they are. And we have screens that show us kind of their position relative to the ship, and then we have a terrain map of the seafloor that we're trying to explore. And so the pilots are controlling the vehicles, obviously, and the Atalanta is mainly controlled by the winch moving up and down as we move over the terrain. And then you can kind of think of that as being the main control on our position. And then since Hercules is connected to that with a free tether, the yellow tether, it has some more freedom of movement to move around. And it doesn't have the up and down motion like Atalanta has, since that's the one that's connected directly with the steel cable. So yeah, my job is really just kind of coordinate that the ship is moving us in the right direction to get Atalanta to where it needs to go, and then wherever Atalanta goes is sort of where Hercules can go. So those moves that we coordinate with the bridge, so the bridge are the officers that drive the vessel. We're just asking them to position the ship, so we give them a distance we want to move, and then a direction, so that's like a bearing that we want them to go in, and then a speed, like how fast we want them to move the ship, because that all translates to how Atalanta is basically going to be pulled, thousands of meters below us on the terrain. So that's, hopefully that answers the question.
It does. Thank you.
Hey.
Okay, so to our viewers, if you are interested in being a NAV, STF, scientist on board OET, or just, we do highly encourage you to start somewhere, just like Rai said. It's best to go out and get your hands on something, get started, and then slowly start to apply for internships, certificates, about what it is you want to pursue. Again, PICRIC is, their applications are open for internship. Go to picric.org. Is that right?
Yeah.
Awesome. OET, their internships for next year's expeditions are open. So apply. And even if you don't get it, keep applying. It's good to try and try again. You never know if you'll get it, So highly encouraged to go check out our website and apply what you want to do. Okay. Awesome. I think we did a whole lot of talking. Great job, team. Woo. Is chat, our team is working to get channel 3 up and running. Thank you for your patience, but
I guess while we're on the topic of opportunities to get experiences, Noel also mentioned that NOAA has the Explorers in Training program, which is very similar to our internships. That's usually focused on the mapping side of ocean exploration, so another great way to get out and learn hands-on mapping skills if that's something people are interested in. There's also the MATE program, M-A-T-E, and I think that's through NSF, National Science Foundation, maybe funds that?
I think so, through UNOLS, yeah.
Yeah, so that's a chance to get out on a whole different fleet of vessels and kind of get your foot in the door, get some experience. So check that out, like Google Mate internships. What's some other ones? We have STEMSEAS.
STEMSEAS?
Yeah, STEMSEAS, STEMSEAS.
STEMSEAS.
I don't know a lot of details about that one, but we have hosted STEMSEAS students on some of our cruises out here. Yeah, it's kind of a tongue twister. Yeah, so another thing to kind of explore and see what that's all about, see if that's a good fit for your interests. Also, I've reviewed a lot of applications for interns over the years, and it does help just to get a diversity of anything marine related. If you foresee yourself wanting to get in the marine field in general, like just volunteering at an interpretive center that's on the coast somewhere, or an aquarium, environmental education programs. Just it shows a lot of initiative, and just that you've already kind of put yourself out there to have some internship experience, and that will make you kind of stand out from someone that doesn't, if you're trying to get the next step of your career and go to sea. We're at about 1,500 meters right now, so we're like halfway to the seafloor for this dive.
How deep are we planning to go?
Sorry?
How deep are we planning to dive?
We're going to start at about 3,000 meters.
3,000 meters. What's the deepest Herc and Atalanta has dived?
Herc can go to 4,000 meters. Atalanta, I believe, 6,000. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that
Oh,
sounds
wow.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so we had a couple dives last year. We were near the Midway Islands out off of northwestern Hawaii, and it was too deep for. We had dive sites that we wanted to go to visit some of the aircraft carriers that had been sunk in the Battle of Midway. And yeah, they were at 550, 200 meters, somewhere in there. And so too deep for Herc, but we did send Atalanta down by itself. So that's, not our typical way of doing it, but we had the vehicle that was rated to that, and we really wanted to get photo imagery and share that with the world. So it was really interesting, but it was definitely kind of weird to be a navigator in that role and not have Herc. You're just slowly moving Atalanta along the side of these giant aircraft carriers, very deep, very slow, deliberate movements, and not a lot of ability to go and look around like we normally do. But we got some stunning imagery of these really important parts of history. So that was special.
What are other cool things you've seen during your previous dives? Because this is my first one, and this is pretty cool seeing the bottom of the seafloor. But Gabby, Derek, you've had a lot of previous cruises. Can you name something one of your top 3 interesting things that you've seen on the seafloor?
Hydrothermal vents are ridiculously cool. They're like chart toppers for sure. They're insane. They're just like ductwork straight to the center of the earth and back in time as well. I've seen some ancient shipwrecks. Back when I first started with this group, we were in the Mediterranean and the Black Sea, looking at 2,000 to 1,500-year-old shipwrecks. Those are pretty rad. And then, I don't know. I love a good cephalopod. We've seen some cool ones like serra-toothed octopus, vampire squid, things like that.
Yeah, some other things that have been really interesting and unusual. There's these things called brine pools, which are, like we
Ooh,
found some in
yeah.
the Gulf of Mexico.
Brine pools?
Yeah, so it's super hyper salty water on the seafloor. And when you come across them with the ROV, it kind of looks like there's a lake or a pond on the seafloor.
Oh my gosh, I've seen that on
It's really
video.
bizarre looking. Yeah, it's like a still pool that you come across. And there's not really that much known about them in terms of what can live in them and how widespread they are. But they're only in certain environments that create those conditions where you can get really super salty water. And it sits in those pond-like structures because it's heavier, it's more dense than the surrounding seawater. And they tend to be very dark in color. But it's a very strange thing to come across and to see. What else? We have some work next year, probably going to the Marianas region. So the Mariana Trench is the deepest in the world. And our vehicles aren't rated to the bottom. There's only a few vehicles that have ever been built that can reach the bottom. But we can dive down on the side, sort of walls going into the trench. So that was an interesting experience to be part of that. And basically see where some of the old seafloor is getting pulled down and subducted, so pushed back into the earth and kind of melted. That's what's happening in the trenches with the tectonic plates. And nearby those areas, that hot molten earth is basically coming back up and forms these nearby volcanic islands, either under the water or some of them over geologic time become islands. So it's really neat. Within a short distance, you go from some of the deepest parts of the ocean to some of these newly formed volcanic areas, and then you get things like the hydrothermal vents that Gabby was describing. So that's a really fascinating part of the world. And yeah, we've even found like layers of fossils when we were on the side of the trench. So you're basically journeying back in time in some of these places where millions and millions of years ago, the biology was laid down and sort of preserved in fossils for you to go look at.
Do you think by next year OET might have the robots that's capable of going down deeper into the Marianas Trench?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, we do have partnerships with some people that are developing these Hadal landers. Maybe, Jeff, you want to chat about that a little bit?
Yeah, basically how do we get down to trench depths?
Yeah.
So this coming year, there will be an expedition to the Mariana Trench on Nautilus and also some surrounding environments. But the trench work is going to rely on two principal pieces of gear that are specially designed and built to withstand the extreme pressures. That's over 1,000 atmospheres of pressure at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. One of those is what's called the Hadal Water Column Profiler. It's a torpedo-shaped instrument that is deployed off the side of the vessel. It sinks down towards the seafloor, and it basically studies the water column, everything in the mid-waters before you reach the seafloor. Actually, when this instrument gets close to the seafloor, it has a little bottom sounder, and it detects the seafloor, and it slows down, and then turns around and comes straight back up to the ship where it gets picked up. The Hadal Profiler has instruments to measure the temperature and the oxygen and the salinity of the seawater. It also has a current meter and microturbulence sensors, a water sampler, and it's got a sonar on it to look for the biomass of animals, and a camera. So it can sample the chemistry, the physics, and the biology of the water column all at the same time. And it does that round trip to the bottom of the trench in about 8 hours. So it's very fast. The other instrument and that'll be great because that'll be the first real cohesive look at a trench water column that's ever been done. So that'd be great. The other instrument that the Nautilus will employ is called the Deep Autonomous Profiler. Again, it's an instrument deployed totally free of the ship. This one has a ring of water bottles, and when it is deployed, it sinks down. It actually lands on the seafloor. And then after a certain period of time, it drops some weights and it comes back towards the surface and it starts tripping those water bottles. And you collect water at discrete depths all the way back up towards the surface. And the really cool thing about that is scientists are going to be doing the same kinds of things that Pickerick is doing here. They're going to be using that water to look at environmental DNA, which will give us a really unique opportunity to look at the diversity of life, at least from their DNA, in a trench. These are really hard places to get to, really hard places to study. A lot of people have tried going to the trenches before. The Chinese have a submarine that goes there. The US had an ROV that went there. The Japanese had an ROV that went there. Both of those were lost in the trench due to implosion. It's a hard place. It's a hard place to study. Yeah, the pressures tend to crush our instruments even when we design them to withstand those pressures.
Wow.
Yeah, and then just to add to that, some other efforts to develop deep trench HADL exploration vehicles. I know Woods Hole is developing a vehicle called Orpheus that's been involved with some of the ocean exploration work over the years. And I think the vision behind that is to try to design a vehicle that's free, again, that can go without being connected to the ship, and has some movement capabilities, and is relatively low cost. So like Jeff mentioned, it's a very high risk endeavor to explore these areas, really high pressures. So if there's not something that has kind of a weak point in the vehicle, it could cause the whole vehicle to be lost. So they're trying to make this relatively cheap on the scale of deep sea exploration vehicles, and maybe have a fleet of them that could be used either singular deployments or maybe communicating in tandem, and then they'd have some freedom of movement to actually go and take imagery of different parts of the seafloor. So a little bit different than a lander, that they could hopefully move around and do some exploration, capture imagery, measure some different water quality parameters, and then return to the surface. So yeah, it's pretty exciting to see all these different approaches and different vehicles with complementary capabilities being kind of put into practice and put through the paces and see what they're capable of. Yeah.
I should say too, I forgot to mention when I was mentioning the vehicles, the University of Western Australia, led by Alan Jameson in this Inkfish project, they also have a submarine that is capable of taking 2 people to the bottom of the trench. And so that vehicle has been used. That vehicle dove in the Palau Trench right here to 8,000 meters. And they also use baited cameras and baited traps to sample the animals down there. So people are actively studying the trenches. It's really exciting. It is, if the deep sea is the last frontier, the trenches are the last frontier in the last frontier.
That's a good way to put it.
But what about the shallow subsea floor? Maybe that's the last frontier. There's a lot of discoveries to be made about what's going on underneath the seabed that we don't yet really understand. So who knows? I feel like there's always more frontiers.
It's a pretty big world.
It's cool to think how far technology has come in terms of exploration. I mean, before we didn't have this type of technology, we couldn't do much, but now we have it and we're still developing different types of techs to go to places like this in the trenches, explore places we've never explored before, we've never mapped. So I'm pretty excited to see next year too, especially the Marianas Trench. I mean, if I don't get on, I'm definitely going to be tuning in because I'm curious to what OET will find.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a super exciting time to be in this field. There's so many advances happening simultaneously. One big game changer has been like low orbiting satellite technology, like Starlink is allowing us to have a lot more data that we can move from ship to shore. At the same time, there's been a lot of advancements in autonomous vehicles, so vehicles that can either move along the sea surface as small ships that can be remotely controlled underwater vehicles like AUVs, autonomous underwater vehicles. So we're having this technological revolution in systems that you can remotely control from elsewhere, and then at the same time, the ability to push much more data coming from those vehicles to shore and at a more affordable, in a more affordable way than traditional satellite technology. So it's going to be interesting to see where all this goes, but definitely expanding quickly our ability to increase the pace at which we can explore places and the type of information we can get. And then there's all sorts of gliders that can go really long duration missions. So they really low power vehicles that can use kind of ocean currents and just sort of more passively move through the oceans and measure things. And then periodically they pop up to the surface and can send data back to shore via satellite. And then there's stuff like Sail Drone, which has pretty neat vehicle, low carbon footprint, uses wind and solar mainly to move around the oceans as a surface vehicle, and you can put all sorts of sensor packages. In fact, some of those are even being used to map now. You can put a deep water multi-beam on something like that and go out and map in remote areas that are hard to get to by ships, maybe some areas that are more risky for people to spend time in. So yeah, there's a lot going on technologically in this field.
Do we know what type of sonar OET uses
For
mapping?
from this ship, we have a Kongsberg EM302, so that's a deep water multi-beam sonar, so it's something you wouldn't use like near shore. So it's the differences are like for if you want to map in deeper water, you basically need a larger sonar system. So you need a bigger ship to put those on. You need more power, and you need a lower frequency. So the way sound travels in the ocean is basically the lower the frequency, the further it can travel, but sort of the less resolution you'll get at the end of the process for a map. So shallow water multi-beams, shallow water mapping systems tend to be real high frequency, but if you try to use them in the deep ocean, you just don't get any signal back. It kind of gets attenuated in the water column. So there's all sorts of different systems that are optimized for different water depths, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the deeper you want to map, kind of the bigger system and larger ship you need to do that with. And then, like we saw yesterday, we had a small multi-beam attached to the ROV itself. So that's another way to do things, kind of a multi-resolution. So we can do sort of a course map using our ship's multi-beam and get a general map of the terrain. And then when you go close to the seafloor, you can use a high-frequency mapping system and get really much more resolution. So you can resolve a lot of the terrain features that you can't see from a hull-mounted ship-based multi-beam. So it's kind of neat to have those two perspectives where you get the overview map, but at a coarse resolution, and then you can use a high-frequency system. As long as you get close to the seafloor, you can do that. You can't have it both ways, but you can have complementary capabilities.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So since we're mapping, is there a way, on our website, can we look at the places that OET has mapped, the Nautilus has mapped, as a whole, or?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, so you can. There's basically all our data ends up in publicly accessible archives.
Oh, okay.
So there's, you know, you might need a little help stepping through how to look at those web viewers, but basically it's there's this website called NCEI, Bathymetric Viewer, and that shows all the ship tracks that have been put into this archive, and you can actually filter the results by the ship. So if you just go into that browser, and then you put a filter on that says, show me all the Nautilus expeditions, it will show you all of the ship tracks that we've ever done around the world. And then you could actually look at the multi-beam coverage that we've collected while we did those missions. And then you can actually just click a button and download any particular expedition if you know how to look at the data and work with it. So it's all there. And then we're actually trying to develop some more of our in-house capability to do that too. So we manage our own data on our servers through geographic information systems. But yes, but the data is all there. You can see what we've mapped. And then also, to make it more accessible to a broader audience, we do also put out an annual report. So it's both a physical, you know, a nice bound summary of what we did all year. And then there's a digital version online that you can get through our website. And that shows you maps of our whole expedition season in one place as a graphic. And then you can look at, you know, more highlight photos and text on what we did and who we partnered with and what we discovered. So that's a really nice summary of our annual work that comes out every year. So if people haven't seen that, I encourage you to go to Nautilus Live and find that annual report. It's really a good summary of what we do.
And it's good, the annual reports, it's available to the public.
Absolutely.
They can just go on the website and just
Yep.
see what we're doing. Yeah. So that's so good.
Yep, and it's written in, we try to write it in such a way that it's understandable by non-scientists. We put science content, like what our discoveries were and kind of what that means, but it's also meant to be, it's not like a scientific paper where maybe some people would struggle to understand what people are talking about. So it's, I don't know, it's a really great, quick recap of everything we did in a year of work.
And that's a lot of work within a year.
It is.
I bet.
And
Yeah, I mean,
we try to publish those reports by
And I
about
bet there's so many
April.
reports you have to put in one annual report.
Oh yeah,
And props to you guys.
it's a team effort.
Team
for
effort,
sure.
yep.
but I'd say for most people, that's the most accessible way to kind of see what we did, you know, because things like the bathymetry archive, where you can look up every single cruise and download the data sets, is really super important for long-term science. Like the people, we do that before every expedition. We go and see the place where we're going. We want to know what's been done there before, so we scour through all the previous expeditions that have gone to that area. We want to make sure we don't duplicate any of the mapping work that was done. We want to build on that. And then also, same in terms of the scientific discoveries that have been made in an area, we want to be aware of things like previous deep submergence dives, whether they be with a human-occupied submarine or our other ROVs. So we make sure we know, you know, what has been done in an area before, and make sure that we're trying to make new discoveries and add to that body of knowledge.
Thank you, Derek.
Sure. I should mention too that that's like one of the key roles that Daniel Wagner and Noel Helder are doing for us, is engaging with scientists that a lot of times people have spent their a large part of their careers in different geographies, and they're regional experts in knowing what science has been done there. So it's really important to talk to those folks and really understand the depth of knowledge that they have and make sure that we're using that, to avoid any sort of duplication and to make sure that they're engaged in what we're trying to do and can contribute to what we're, our understanding of an area we're going to.
Yeah, and to build on that, there's also just so much knowledge from our local partners, and we rely immensely on that in building with this traditional knowledge that exists in a location where we're maybe going to for the first time as well, really feeds into the work that we're doing. And so kind of bringing together all these different streams of information that we may have about a place to explore, I think is really a critical part of the work that we do.
And I think that's one of the great things about OET, because they're partnering with a lot of local agencies and they're bringing in their culture, their perspectives, and working together to explore their waters, So they're sharing that information, but at the same time, OET is looking at their perspective of what, on how to help them navigate and so forth. So I think that's pretty neat. Before OET, I've never heard anyone else do that. But I don't know if it's just me or because I live on a rock, in the middle of the Pacific. But when OET came along, I'm really grateful for that.
Yeah, I think it maybe not super easily seen by people, but a lot of the data that's collected on these type of missions is very directly applicable to management decisions in the ocean. So we do focus a lot on the very exciting discoveries, but a lot of the fundamental science that gets done through this type of work is also super important. And we do engage very directly with the managers of these places. So we've been doing a lot of work in marine protected areas, and it's hard for a manager to know, to make good management decisions, come up with good plans for monitoring or managing activities if they don't have even basic information about the shape of the seafloor or the type of biological communities that are in their waters. So every time we gather a new piece of information, that just, it leads to more informed decision making. So that's kind of not always seen by people, but that's where all this information kind of goes and is directly used, which is hard to get, because if you're just funded to do work with a hypothesis, like a lot of research is very directed, right? You get money to go out to sea in a lot of cases to answer a scientific question, which is really important. But it's also important to go to places we don't know much about and get some basic characterization and understanding of an area. And then that drives, the new hypotheses that we're trying to generate, and really reveals things that we didn't even know were out there. So they're both super important, but I think what we can learn through exploration really is pretty unique and often very tangible to managers trying to understand what's out there.
Yeah, you're right. I was talking with a few friends back home. To our viewers, back home for me is Pago American Samoa. A lot of our ocean is unmapped, unexplored, because one, we don't have the type of technology that Nautilus has. So they were before coming to Palau, they were in American Samoa mapping and, of course, launching ROVs to see what's in the ocean in our own backyard. But before that, we didn't have any idea what was there. So we couldn't make any conservation decisions or any type of management decisions, because we didn't know what we're trying to conserve, what we're trying to protect. And again, we didn't have this type of technology. So now that OET came to American Samoa, for the first time, we kind of have an idea of what is there. So hopefully in the future, OET keeps coming back, so we can keep learning about what's in our waters. And I know not only for American Samoa, for other islands too, like Palau, um, the data, the information that we get here can really help the locals make more management decisions and all. So that was good to know. Thanks, Derek. Well, thanks, team.
Thank you for driving the conversation.
Oh, thank you. I'm trying to poke your brains. Like, tell me what you know. I want to know.
Yep.
One thing that I might add or ask Jeff to speak to a little bit about the data that we are collecting, especially on this expedition. So we have all of these video feeds, right? We go down and we're surveying and we're seeing things. My role as the data logger during the dives is to document some of the species that we're seeing, important habitat changes, and get kind of an overview of what we're looking at. But that's only about half the battle to make the data usable for scientists. We kind of have to go a step farther, and thankfully we have Jeff and his team on board, and they're going to be taking the video data and working with it afterwards. Maybe Jeff, would you like to share a little bit about the annotation stuff that you're working on?
Sure. So once the video has been collected, we need to convert it into a digital form. Basically, we need to take video and make numbers out of it so that scientists and managers can use it in a little more of a quantitative way. And so that process is called video annotation. And our group, the Deep Sea Animal Research Center, which is based out of the University of Hawaii, we have a group of wonderful people who have a great diversity of taxonomic expertise, and they can watch that video and they can identify most, sometimes all, of the animals and features that we see in the video. And an 18-hour dive on Nautilus could result in 20,000 such annotations. Those are individual points in time where we've seen a particular organism, a certain sponge or a coral or a fish, and it gets an identity, and then it's matched up with all the sensor data from the vehicle so that we know what is the location that we saw that animal, and what depth was it at, and what was the oxygen concentration and the temperature. And so we get this sort of quantitative view of the whole dive from doing this. And it takes hours to go through the video, but it's really important. And then all of this data is publicly served freely. It goes to what's called the Ocean Biogeographic Information System Database, or OBIS, and is hosted by NOAA as well. And so anyone who's interested in that data can download that data and use it, and that will inform where species live in the oceans and how different species occupy different depth zones, and how unique an area's community of organisms might be compared to others. Helps answer all kinds of questions like that, which feeds back into management and conservation.
Yeah, that was a great explanation. I think it's important because people, I mean, it is always fun to watch our videos and exciting to see what's there, but I think it's really important to understand that this is also actually a really important scientific data set that's being carefully analyzed for all the insights that you just covered. Otherwise, it's just kind of like, you know, it's an interesting thing, but then it's kind of it's not fully mined for its science content until it goes through that process that Jeff just talked about.
On this cruise too, it's going to be useful because we're also collecting these in tandem eDNA samples. So we can use that to help ground truth some of the potential species that may pop up in the eDNA analysis with the observations that we've made on the seafloor.
So we're collecting a lot of things at once.
collect a lot of
That's
different
great.
streams of
That's a
lot of
information. Yep.
A lot of information.
A lot
Yep.
of information at once. Oh gosh. Oh. Oh, I thought we just saw fish. Never mind. So all of the pictures and videos will be taken back by your team. Is
Yep.
there like a team of scientists that will
Yeah.
analyze all the...
So Megan Putz, who's here as a navigator, is one of those video annotators, and Sarah Bingo and Nikki Kunanen. And then we have 2 graduate students who work on these data sets as well. Harold Carlson, who's here on another one of the shifts, and Aaron Judah. And that's the team of people that works through the data.
Wow.
It's slow. It typically takes about 4 hours to annotate 1 hour of video. So you can imagine that there's a lot of post-processing that goes into all of this. You have to combine the video with all of the sensor data, and then you've got to just spend time looking at all the imagery, and we take pictures and we send them off to various taxonomic experts to make sure that we have all the identifications correct and uniform across the data set. And yeah, but it's really worthwhile in the end. You have a high quality sort of QA, QCed, quality controlled data set that people can use.
Oh, that's amazing. So 1 hour, it takes a long time to analyze 1 hour?
Yeah, so it depends. On some of the dive,
Oh.
when you don't see a whole lot, you can watch it pretty quickly.
Okay.
But imagine like the first dive we did here in Palau, when we got to the top of the seamount, and there was a forest of corals and sponges. So all of those corals and sponges, all of those little squat lobsters and brittle stars sitting on top of them, everything gets a point and an annotation. And so if you can see 50 animals in the field of view at one time, it takes a little while.
You have to annotate every organism that you see?
Every single one.
Every single one in
Yep.
view of the
That is
camera
correct.
picture? Or...
Yep.
Wow.
There was a dive that we were annotating up off of Alaska for the that was done on an Okeanos Explorer expedition, and the seafloor was carpeted in brittle stars. This was at a depth of about 1,000 meters, and we decided that we would not actually try to count them. We counted them in hundreds, so that various times in the dive you would, count 600 brittle stars or 1,000 brittle stars. We figured that was at least enough to get a general idea of what was there.
It's a lot of brittle stars.
It was a lot of brittle stars. It's actually kind of creepy. All these little arms sticking up out of the seafloor.
I bet. And
Yeah.
It's like crawling on them. Okay, making my skin crawl. Anyway, did they find out, do you know if they found out like the species of brittle stars?
They did. I don't recall it off the top of my head, but yes, we sent images to experts and we got a
And they were-
species.
ah,
There were
okay,
just a
that's
couple
good.
very common species.
Should be almost there, no?
Are we?
I don't know. I thought it was 2,600, the depth, where we're going.
Oh, I was mistaken. I was looking at the wrong sheet when
Oh.
when I initially said 2,600. We're going to
It's
3,000.
3,000.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
then
was-
it's
that
going
was
to take a
my
little
My
longer.
mistake. So we've still got another 400 meters to go, roughly. 15
minutes left?
Okay, not too bad.
Awesome.
Feels colder than usual in here today.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know how you guys can be in a t-shirt.
I feel great.
I came ill prepared. I forgot a sweater.
I'm
Oh,
freezing and I
go
have
get
4
one really
layers
quick.
and a
Better
We got
nothing.
blanket.
15 minutes before we get down
I
to
didn't
the
bring
seafloor.
any kind of
Well, you don't have one on the boat.
nothing. Like, see,
There should be
I
on
didn't
your
bring that. I didn't bring
there
the
should be
sweater.
one on your bed.
Only t-shirt. But that's a big, thick blanket.
That's great.
Yeah, I watched Max sneak over and turn the temperature down. He's trying to freeze us out.
Dang, called out. It's actually like 2 degrees warmer than it's been the past few days.
Oh,
so-
really?
Never mind.
Oh, maybe I'm just sleep deprived.
Sleep deprived. Oh, that's right, because you were analyzing the
I was-
eDNA,
I
right?
was filtering the water, yeah.
Wow. So what is that process like? I never.
Slow.
Slow?
You're welcome to come to the lab.
Okay, I
and-
would love to come and see the.
You just pour water and they slowly drop by drop, almost. So it takes hours. It takes about 3 to 4 hours to filter a batch, like when the ROV comes up, for example.
How many batches do you have?
Kind of twice a day, because we got the surface and then the ROV one. Yeah. Yeah.
6 bottles on the ROV. Yeah.
Yeah, and 6 on the surface, because we do 5 Niskin and then 1 milliQ as a control that we didn't contaminate. Yeah.
So you really have to have patience for that. Just,
Oh yeah.
it's a long time.
But last night we doubled the pumps and we doubled the manifolds, so that's a bit faster now.
That's great. Yeah, did that make a big
Yeah.
difference?
It made, yeah, like 40 minutes different.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Both of you were working on it?
No,
or
just
one?
me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we're into it, it's gonna be even quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. My can is doing it right now. She's probably listening to this.
Okay. We're almost to the sea floor. Are we expecting to see something?
Hopefully.
I want to see a garden of something. Like yeah, that'll be interesting. Because I don't think we've ever seen a garden of corals on our dive, on our watch, right?
Yeah.
We missed the big coral forest on
Yeah.
Oh, we
that first
did?
seamount that we were off. We were off watch. That is true.
Gosh.
So my prediction is that the
Oh.
most dense coral beds will be at the top of the seamount, which is typical of most seamounts. I don't know if we will be on watch again or not.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, answering you.
Gabby, do we need to talk about anything for photogrammetry testing, or do we want to wait till we're down and you are all situated?
Yeah, so far everything's working well.
Great.
We're in fast mode. We're using the fast routing, so through the fiber. So we have full capability right now.
Excellent.
We will definitely let you know if that changes. Is there anything particular you want to know about?
I don't think anything in particular. We will be ready to start the trigger the sampling, trigger the, what is it, the time series from here,
Okay.
if that's fine, and
Pretty much as soon as we get settled on the seafloor, I figure, yeah.
and just run it
Yep.
for the duration of the dive. Does that sound like what you were expecting, Gabby, or?
It doesn't really impact my operations at all.
Okay.
Unless you want to run a structured survey. But my understanding is that's probably not what we're doing right now.
That's correct.
Okay. So you're just going to have it running in photogrammetry mode for at least the duration of the watch?
Correct.
That's correct.
Okay.
I think probably for the duration of the dive, as long as it,
as long as
doesn't
the
crap
fiber
out
path
or the
continues
fiber,
to work.
yeah, exactly.
And you guys have the ability to set the upper cam to 11 millimeters like you want by pressing mid?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I think that, I think we should be in good shape to do all of that. I mean, once we get down there and we get it started, if there's anything that changes, we can talk about it and figure out how to operate around whatever pitfalls arise. Yeah.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, question. What is photogrammetry?
I'm not an expert, but Noelle is.
I can speak about it a little bit. Yeah, so on this dive, we are testing out one of the newer camera systems that we have called our wide field camera array. And essentially what we're going to be doing is taking a bunch of overlapping still images, so overlapping photos of the seafloor. And what we can do is take these overlapping images and actually stitch them together in post-processing to make a bunch of really cool high-resolution three-dimensional visuals of the survey. You can make a bunch of different products. You can make just like one stitched together spatially corrected image. It's called an orthomosaic, which allows you to look at everything that's growing on the seafloor, often in really high resolution. So as we're flying over the surface, you can actually zoom in after we have the product, at the end of a dive, and see, sometimes individual polyps, like centimeter resolution at times.
Wow.
And you can also make 3D models so that you can actually spin around and measure three-dimensional habitat complexity and different features that we see on the seafloor. And yeah, there's a bunch of different uses for it, from biology to ecology. And so that process of taking these overlapping images and correcting them for a bunch of different artifacts is called photogrammetry.
Gotcha.
But this is like thousands and thousands of images that are overlapping in space to be able to create these really, really high-res products.
So how does the software know how to anchor points so that it can create 3 dimensions out of basically 2-dimensional stills? Is it just looking for
fancy
points
algorithms? Yes,
fancy
overlapping
algorithms.
points. So it breaks down. I'm sure there's more to this, and someone else can speak in much more detail than I can. But the overlap is critical. If you don't have enough overlap, it can't identify these matching points. So it breaks down the image that we see into individual pixels and into individual points. Those points are then aligned in space and corrected based on the parameters of the camera. We've got this stereo system, so these 2 different cameras, and we know all the measurements between them, and we know how high we're flying off of the terrain bottom. And it takes all of these different layers of information, uses some very fancy algorithms to actually ensure which points are the same, and then aligns those in over the course of the transect. So if you don't get enough overlap, there's not enough information or enough of these points. These are millions and millions and millions of points that we're talking here. Yeah, then you can get gaps in your data set. So having this continual overlap is important. And what we're doing today to test out the system is just going to attempt to run the camera to be continuously taking photos on a timer. So like every few seconds, we're going to capture another image, another image, another image as we traverse across. Other things that you can do are actually conduct more concentrated surveys. In that case, we'll have the vehicle, or you can do this, people do this with drones, people do this, I've done it a lot swimming over shallow water coral reefs and doing the same kind of process, but then you actually swim in like a lawnmower pattern. So you have your area that you're trying to survey, and you might swim or will fly down the line, turn around, come back a different way, and kind of make this gridded pattern, and then we go across the other way, similar to how we conduct our multi-beam mapping patterns. Making sure you get really dense coverage of the area that you're interested in. Other people will do like a spiral approach, so this is really great if there's, you know, a really large 3D feature. So if we come up on a crazy cliff face that's just covered with corals and it has really high relief from the bottom of the cliff to the top, you can actually just almost fly circles around it and get the overlapping imagery as you kind of spiral up around that object.
Just starting to get some Doppler.
Yeah. Just starting to see it.
Oh, are we getting closer?
We're getting there.
Oh, okay. And is this the first time on this dive we're testing it?
This is the first time that we are testing it on this cruise. Someone else can speak to how often we've used this exact camera system previously, but the whole system is fairly new to OET.
Yeah, we have used it certainly on other expeditions, usually for very select portions of dives of particular interest, because it does take a huge volume of disk space with all these high-resolution photographs. So we try to be somewhat selective for now until we have a very firm pipeline and storage routine. So it's been sort of in a testing, research, development mode this year.
We're 80 meters off the bottom.
Oh.
And I'm slowing down.
Okay.
Not a lot, but a little bit.
Okay, we are almost there.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, but it's already up.
You can come, I'll stop when your altitude's like 30 meters.
Okay.
At that point, I should have a view of the seafloor.
I'm going to tilt my camera all the way down.
Sounds good. There's the seafloor.
Okay.
I can actually see it from 30 meters up. That's pretty
Okay.
amazing.
You want me to come all stop?
Yep.
Okay, all stop.
Oh, is your altitude 30 meters?
I just got a reading of 37
Okay.
that bounced.
Yeah.
But sorry, I haven't managed to get my tilt to go all the way down yet, so.
That's fine.
You're coming down a little bit?
Yeah, you can come down to 30 meters. I'm going to go down to the seafloor. It's nice and clear here. That's awesome. And which way is our direction of travel?
162.
Oh, okay. I don't even have to get underneath Atalanta here. We're already stretched out in the correct direction.
Nice.
So yeah, just keep following me down.
Yeah.